There's a heating method used in Asia for over 3,000 years that is astonishingly effective. It is both cheaper and more efficient than modern Western alternatives. Step into a home using the system, and you will notice something unusual. There is no fireplace, radiator, or visible heating element. Yet, this system can heat an entire building for 6 weeks on a single use, even through the harshest winters. What is it, and why hasn't it been widely adopted? To understand, we need to travel back to a cold winter evening in Japan in 1914. Frank Lloyd Wright, considered one of America's greatest architects, knelt on the floor of a small room. It was a simple moment, but transformative. He had been invited to a client's home after dinner, and as he sat, he noticed the warmth. What was remarkable was that there was no radiator, fireplace, or visible heat source. The room was warm in a way he had never felt before, a sensation he described as indescribable comfort, as if spring had arrived indoors. Wright had encountered an ancient heating system that had been developing in Korea for over 3,000 years. Korean winters are notoriously severe, with cold, dry, and windy conditions driven by Siberian air masses. Temperatures on the coldest days often fall to 5 degrees Fahrenheit. To endure this environment, Koreans created a revolutionary underfloor heating system called the ondol. The earliest evidence dates to around 1000 BC in the Uni region of what is now North Korea. These were pit dwellings with simple fire channels beneath the floors. During the Go Kingdom, ruling the northern Korean peninsula from 37 BC to 668 AD, the system began taking its mature form. A 4th century mural inside Anak Tomb, now a UNESCO World Heritage Site, depicts the ondol in a palace complex. 16 centuries later, the ondol was perfected. It spread across every home in the country, from royal palaces to humble cottages, becoming so central that Korean culture adjusted around it. Chairs disappeared, tables lowered to the floor, and people sat, ate, and slept on the warm stone surfaces. The ondol became so crucial to life that one historian called it the cradle of Korean culture. Elsewhere, similar systems appeared independently. The Roman Hippocaust elevated marble floors over wood-fired chambers to heat baths and elite villas. Technically advanced, it was costly and exclusive, vanishing with the fall of Rome. In China, the kang, a raised sleeping platform heated by flue gases, became standard in northern provinces. As Chinese culture adopted chairs and raised furniture, the floor stopped being a primary living surface, and the full floor system never became universal. Only Korea maintained this principle across all floors and social classes for over 2,000 years. Historians confirm that the Hippocaust, kang, and ondol developed independently, each arriving at the same physics through different paths. So how does it function? Beneath the floor, the ondol consists of 5 key components, each essential to its efficiency. First is the aungji, the firebox located in the exterior kitchen wall, which also serves as a cooking stove. Positioned lower than the room's floor, it directs heat horizontally rather than letting it rise straight up as in a traditional chimney. From the firebox, heated gases move into the gore, a series of horizontal stone passages extending beneath the floor. These routes were intentionally built long and winding. The slower the gases traveled, the longer they remained in contact with the stone overhead, allowing more heat to transfer. Above these channels sat the gudeljang, flat granite slabs measuring 2 to 3 inches thick. Granite is highly effective at storing thermal energy. It is dense, durable, and capable of taking in large quantities of heat before releasing it gradually over many hours. Covering the granite was a layer of red clay, which sealed openings and increased thermal mass even further. On top of the clay rested a finishing layer of oiled hanji paper made from traditional mulberry fibers, polished smooth and made resistant to water. The floor essentially functioned as a thermal battery. Fire charged it with energy, and the stored warmth continued radiating long after the flames had vanished. In some cases, the heat remained for hours. Sometimes it lasted for days. Near the chimney side was the gari, a deep chamber designed to slow airflow as hot gases moved from the floor channels toward the outlet. Beyond that stood the gulak, the chimney responsible for removing cooled exhaust from the system while pulling fresh combustion gases through from the aungi. In an ordinary house, the distance between the firebox and chimney was typically 10 to 13 feet. In the royal palaces of Gyeongbokgung and Seoul, the arrangement became far more elaborate. The king's sleeping quarters connected to the chimney through underground corridors known as yeondo. Some extended as far as 92 feet. The greater the distance, the more heat could be absorbed by the floor before any energy escaped. The palace chimneys were richly decorated with carvings of pine, bamboo, and the 10 symbols of longevity. Their craftsmanship was so exceptional that they were later recognized as national treasures. The system also recognized that heat would not be distributed evenly and turned that reality into an advantage. The section nearest the firebox, known as the Aranmok, remained the warmest. This location was reserved for honored guests and elderly family members. At the opposite end was the Whitmoke, where temperatures were lower and younger members of the household typically sat. This variation in warmth was not considered a flaw. It became part of the home's social structure. To understand the full potential of this technology, one structure stands above all others. What it reportedly achieved still sounds almost unbelievable. The Chilbolsa Temple sits on the slopes of Mount Jerry. Built more than 1,000 years ago as a meditation hall, it featured a cruciform double-deck floor constructed with stone containing unusually high levels of mica. Unlike materials that readily transfer heat, mica slows heat loss significantly because it acts as an insulator. According to Korean legends, before the original system was destroyed, a single intense firing could leave the floor hot for 49 days. After reconstruction, builders were unable to reproduce the exact original flue geometry. As a result, the rebuilt version now retains warmth for 3 to 10 days from one firing, which remains remarkable. Traditional Ondol systems were fueled by wood gathered from agricultural waste, seasoned hardwood, or even pine needles and brush collected from forest floors. Operating costs were extremely low. Maintenance and repairs were almost unnecessary because the Ondol formed an integral part of the building itself. Beginning in the 1960s, Korean engineers gradually replaced stone flue passages with embedded hot water pipes. Instead of smoke moving through stone channels, heated water circulated beneath concrete floors. Today, modern versions of the Ondol are known around the world as underfloor heating systems. Most operate with gas boilers, while an increasing number rely on electric heat pumps. These designs are safer because they address carbon monoxide poisoning, the principal weakness of the traditional arrangement. They are also more efficient. Zone control becomes possible, and multiple energy sources can be used, including biomass, gas, oil, and electricity. This flexibility allows installation in virtually any region of the world. More importantly, these systems provide something that conventional heating methods in many Western homes do not. At present, more than 60% of homes in North America rely on forced air heating. This approach is highly inefficient. The United States Department of Energy estimates that between 25% and 40% of the heat homeowners pay for is lost through leaking ductwork, walls, and inadequate insulation. The human body loses approximately 45% of its heat, not through surrounding air, but through radiation. Heat constantly transfers from our skin to cooler surfaces nearby. Sitting in a room with warm air but cold walls still leaves you feeling chilled. The surfaces draw heat from your body faster than the air can replace it. Underfloor heating solves both problems simultaneously. Combined with modern heat pumps, it can reduce energy use by 31 to 37% compared to traditional convective heating. More importantly, it delivers direct radiant warmth across the largest surface in contact with occupants, keeping people warmer for longer. This explains why more than 90% of homes in South Korea rely on underfloor radiant heat as their main source of warmth. In Germany, Denmark, Austria, and Switzerland, nearly half of newly built homes now include underfloor heating. While the rest of the world embraces this modern adaptation of ancient technology, North America has lagged behind. The reasons trace back to one of the biggest construction mistakes in American history, and there are 3 main causes. In 1947, William Leavitt constructed the first mass-produced suburb in New York, Levittown, which included 17,441 homes. All were equipped with radiant floors using copper tubing embedded in concrete slabs. Initially it worked, but the copper was laid without insulation beneath the slabs, directly in alkaline concrete. Over the following 20 years, concrete corroded the pipes and water leaked through the floors. By the 1970s, over 90% of these radiant systems had been abandoned and replaced with ductwork. As a result, radiant floors suffered a bad reputation for decades, long after modern PEX tubing resolved corrosion issues. The second factor was the rise of the air conditioner. By the mid-1960s, central air conditioning became standard in American homes. It used ductwork, allowing the same system to provide both heating and cooling. This method was easier and cheaper for builders. The third reason is cost. A hydronic radiant system costs $6 to $20 per square foot to install, compared to $3 to $6 for forced air. In a 2,000 square foot home, that can mean $20,000 to $30,000 more upfront, roughly double the cost of a standard forced air setup. When developers pay installation costs but tenants cover energy bills, this split incentive explains much of the resistance. Retrofitting existing floors for radiant heat is disruptive and expensive. In climates where air conditioning is essential, a separate cooling system is still needed. For those not starting from scratch, electric radiant mat systems offer an accessible alternative. Thin heating elements can be installed directly beneath tile or stone floors in a single day. They require no concrete work, piping, or structural changes. Installation costs range from $8 to $15 per square foot. While these mats have limited thermal mass and cannot keep floors warm for 49 days or even 49 hours, they provide localized radiant heat. The Ondol is a 2,000-year-old system built from stone and clay, based on the principle that heat rises and that placing warmth beneath people instead of above them allows less energy to produce more comfort. Much of this knowledge nearly disappeared, not because it failed, but because industry shifted toward more profitable solutions. Please leave your thoughts about this content in the comments below. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.